All right, next we have another panel discussing the state of golf entertainment at facilities. Joining us on stage is Brett Campbell, Executive Chairman for AboutGOLF, Alex Goodman, Senior Director of North America for Toptracer, David Pillsbury, CEO of Invited and our MCOR23 co-chair, and Cathy Harbin, at-large Director, PGA Board of Directors, owner of Pine Ridge Golf Course, our moderator, incoming president. Take it away, Cathy.
Thank you. Well, golf entertainment, that's a phrase that, even though we've been saying it a lot lately, it's still somewhat new. We've been talking about golf and what it looks like, and we've had a great discussion just kind of preparing for this, and Dave and I had a nice discussion earlier talking about what's happening in golf now, what's the difference between 1997 when we had a lot of people that came out, entered the game, and didn't stay, and what's happening now with the stickiness that we have. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on that, Dave.
Well, I mean, I think there's been a systemic change in the business, and it actually started, I think with Topgolf 20 years ago. I mean, it's hard to believe that you guys have been at this 20 years. And when it started, it was fairly asymmetrical, right? It was disorganized. It was small. And what's happened is the rate of organization has accelerated, and you saw that with the NGF data, not only with the scale that Topgolf has achieved, but all of the other concepts that have emerged, both outdoor and indoor. And so the effect that we see is a structural change to the golf ecosystem. And I've said for many years, and many of us have talked about this for many years, interest has never been the problem. What other business can you think of that has an infomercial 46 weekends a year on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? And the answer is there isn't one. There's not another sport, there's not another business. We have a built-in demand creation engine, which is basically golf media. And if you look at the PGA Tour fan base, if you look at LIV, if you look at the way golf is consumed, whether it's on media, whether it's Netflix or other social media outlets, probably 150 million people are interfacing with golf in the media. That's accelerated, but that's not new. What's new is the next layer of this pyramid, which is alternative golf access, where there's virtually no friction. And we've done a great job in this industry, all of us, of creating enormous friction for people who are interested in the sport. We make it really hard for people to play. That's now changed. And it's fundamental, it's systemic, and it's permanent. And when you combine the fact that there are now these updrafts in this pyramid with no friction point of entry, you have a recipe for continued growth in demand as you move up the pyramid food chain. Municipal golf, daily fee golf, resorts, entry-level commercial clubs, all the way up to premier commercial clubs, even ultimately to private equity blue blood clubs that exist in every market. That's a little further kind of upstream, but ultimately each of those segments will benefit from the fact that all you need is a credit card to experience golf. And what I didn't realize until we went through the NGF data, we're not even counting putting. I mean, if you count putting, and if any of you have been to any of the new putting concepts out there that are packed, there's probably another 1.5 million consumers who are interfacing with golf through putting that aren't even counted in the 41 million. So that's a permanent change, and it would not have happened but for golf entertainment or alternative golf access that, again, doesn't require special clothing, special shoes, a tee time, having to interface with somebody in a golf shop that doesn't want to look at you, having to call someone for a lesson who doesn't call you back. You show up with a credit card and you're playing golf. I mean, that is a fundamental systemic shift in the business. And I think bodes incredibly well for all of us, and I think the data bears that out over the next decade because there's virtually no new capacity being added on the green grass side. So just to kind of add an exclamation mark to that, I think in 10 years, the US will look a lot more like South Korea, with many golfers maybe, unfortunately, never getting the opportunity to play green grass, but everybody aspiring to play green grass, which again, I think plays very well to everybody in this room, and it's going to be powered through the growth in technology and indoor and outdoor golf experiences. And I think Alex is right. I think the word entertainment will be dropped. It's golf. Whether you're practicing, you're taking a lesson, or you're doing it just to have fun with your friends, to see how far you can hit it, it's all golf. And that is a shift that is certainly welcome and I think very, very powerful.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Alex, why don't you talk about a couple things? First of all, when did your company realize you could actually scale this up, that it wasn't going to just be a one-off here or there, you can really scale it up, multi-core cylinders and so forth? And then talk a little bit about what you're saying about dropping the word entertainment.
Yeah, thank you. I'll start with that, and thanks for setting that up, because entertainment creates a perception, and that perception usually results in Topgolf big shots, multi-level, food and beverage, mostly non-golfers. And I think when we are trying to scale this business and when we're using that word, that puts up our own barrier to this audience and to the real scalable market, which is the multi-course operators and the green grass business. So I love alternative golf. It might just be golf. Entertainment golf says something different that I think creates this perception, and the first time you hear it, you say, well, I don't want to build a Topgolf in my facility. And that's not what we do. So I think it's really important for us to focus on the fact that if they're hitting balls at your range, they're a customer of yours, and that getting them on your property is the top priority from an entertainment-like golf facility. We're very cohesive now. I mean, we were talking about when it first started, Topgolf was here, the golf business was here, and we didn't want anything to do with each other, and now we couldn't be more entwined and couldn't be more of a relationship, because we want people from Topgolf to go to your golf facilities, but they have to do it in an environment that they're comfortable with. That doesn't mean building a structure. That doesn't mean even Toptracer technology. That just means an environment that they can walk on your property and feel comfortable, and now they're a customer of yours. They may never convert to the first tee. They may never put a peg in the ground. I think we all need to be okay with that as long as they're at your property. And we also talk about, it's not really this market share thing anymore. There's all these golfers who want to go play more golf somewhere else, and we all know golf people, and we're probably all of them, that I'd rather go hit balls at 10 o'clock at night and have a drink with friends or family or whoever than go to a restaurant right now. So that's the way we need to think about it. And I think one important part is, just because there's alternative golf concepts doesn't mean people are not going to use different versions at different times. It's like the restaurant business. Just because I love fine dining and the taco truck opens down the street doesn't mean I'm going to stop going to the fine dining. I just might do that with my wife for anniversary and the taco truck with my son and my sons. That's the same as golf. I go with my son and go fish at the range. He's 5 years old, and we just played our first round of golf together. My wife wants to start playing now. And then I go play in a 4-day member guest, just like everybody else. And those are different versions of entertainment. But entertainment takes time and entertainment takes money. We'd rather that money and time comes to the golf business than goes to other industries. And if we could think about it that way, then we can start breaking down those barriers and start realizing, what we can do as golf facilities. To answer the question about scalability, I think when we realized we could support the green grass business, obviously Topgolf, we transitioned from the big, large-scale entertainment to supporting the standalone covered range business. And when we realized we could develop technology that could be outside and that could fit facilities, we realized we had real scale. And then we had to start positioning and changing perception around what it was. And without the people in this room, there's no way we could have accomplished that. People like you, Cathy, and what you're doing in Paris, Texas. So we appreciate everybody for joining us on the ride, because that's where it really starts. We have to break down that barrier and make sure that everybody's in it together, and we have to build a product that's for everybody.
And we were talking earlier about a golfer will and we want them to cross over into many different aspects of the game. I will still, at my facility, I'll see golfers that'll come at 5 o'clock, they'll play till dark, and then they'll go over to the Toptracer range and play Pebble Beach. And they're just there all night. When there's a handful of those guys that are out there doing that, or then maybe they'll pull up long drive, but they're staying there the entire afternoon because we have alternative ways to enjoy the game.
Yeah. We saw it yesterday, right? We didn't leave the golf course. We stayed there.
Right.
There were drinks, there was food. We spent an extra 2 hours. So we talk about time on property, return on experience. Yep. Those are really important things to us. Doesn't matter what they're doing. They're here, they're spending money.
Yep.
They're spending it here instead of going out somewhere else and spending their money.
Good. And then Brett, we're talking about what David mentioned about what's happening in Korea with a simulator on every corner. What are some things you're experiencing with your business?
Yeah, so I mean, 5 years ago, we purchased the aboutGOLF business. And getting back to what's different now from 1997 to today, the technology's a lot better. It's trusted. We can put business models around it for our individual customers. So for SIM as a service, where we can now have a monthly predictable cost for a golf club instead of a hefty upfront cost. But I think also, I was in Korea myself in April, and just to see the Golf Zone indoor, friend screens, Cacao, those people, it's just amazing to see now people are actually accepting the indoor golf as part of their journey, but it's just part of the journey. And so we see what we look at in the platform business is that we should be able to have fun, improve and engage, but also increase that membership value so that they've got something else to do. And so we can see now that the technology is driving that. And so the SIM as a service model is really exciting to us because it really does create that partnership between ourselves and the golf club, or ourselves and the indoor golf centre, because it's when you start to do a subscription-based model, you're actually promoting and working together every day. It's not, hey, buy something and then we'll leave you alone for 6 years and come back and hopefully you'll buy another one. But it's about being adaptable every day and then making sure they've got the latest and greatest as well.
That's great. And so, David, you are scaling this across multiple facilities. And what are some things you're doing to drive consistency? And even when I thought of this question, it's, do you even care if there's consistency because it's different clubs and different types of experiences?
Well, look, I think we have 12 clubs now with simulators. We have 30 more on deck. This is an important initiative for Bob and Mark Gore and our golf team, particularly in markets that are seasonal, where you're trying to create a little more stickiness when you can't play on the golf course. And I think it's becoming an expectation for members. And I think you got to have a variety of programming. It's like anything in a private club. I mean, programming is how you activate it. So you have to have, of course, instruction, but then you also have to have, gamification, and you've got to have, access to food and beverage, and so people can do at different day parts the things they like to do. So, there may be very different usage in the morning than in the evening. I mean, in the morning you're going to have more instruction, more fitting, more serious practice. In the evening you're probably going to have more doing what you guys did last night, having a couple drinks and doing a long drive contest, And so that's what we're seeing. So it's another dimension to sort of extend the stay and extend the experience at a private club. And I think it's going to become more and more important. I said to Alex, I think what you're going to find with Toptracer is, particularly at upper tier private clubs, it's going to become an expectation of members that when I practice on the range, I better have data and I better be able to see my ball flight. I just think it's coming. And it's not there yet. You got to go to places like Dallas National, and it's still kind of very high end, but it's moving right down the food chain. And I think it's going to be an important dimension of being able to retain and activate members at upper end clubs.
Yeah, that's terrific. And so in the middle of that, we have all these new golfers, different demographic coming in, and we still have our core golfers, right? So Alex, I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of protecting the core, but I'll tell a little Pine Ridge, Paris, Texas story. I put Toptracer in 12 covered bays, and there's this little chatter from our core members, those guys that play in the mornings, about why did she spend the money on there? She should have put the money in the golf course, all these things. And so I kind of gathered the group around one morning and kind of explained what we were doing and why we were doing it. And I basically said we should all wake up every morning saying a little prayer that this is highly successful, because that's how we parlay that money and take a little bit of money and parlay it into something really great for the golf course if it's really successful. And so they did get it. They did understand that this was something that would eventually help them also, but it took a little conversation first. So
I'll bet you they use it all the time.
And they love it, yeah.
Yeah, we find it very important that you have to appeal to the plus handicapper and somebody that's never touched a golf club. And if you can fit everything else in between, you're going to win. You can't alienate the single player. You can't alienate the warm-up player. You can't alienate anybody in this evolution, and then you're going to have a very successful model. That plus handicapper is going to get their gapping and their data. They're going to be able to work on their game and have practice modes that are getting you this real-life environment. We all want to play better, and we were talking about it, no matter who you are. And if anyone says anyone at Topgolf's not trying to play better or at Big Shots, Well, they're trying to hit it further, they're trying to hit it closer to a target, and they're trying to beat their friend. So everybody's trying to hit a golf ball better. So we have to give them that sort of mental load environment from a performance side of things, but then also create some games and these environments that somebody wants to walk up to and hit a golf ball that's never hit a golf ball before. So those two things are really important, but taking care of the core is something we talk about a lot at facilities like yours, or at if Brad's in the room for Palmetto Dunes, where he converted his entire range that was just warm up for a championship golf course. And we had to make sure we helped along the way to make sure the core's still happy and there's something there for them, because we just don't want to think we're going to flood a bunch of new players in who have never been to a golf course before.
And that's why dropping the word entertainment is probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah. I think we should get rid of
the
it.
core.
Yeah.
And then David, you spoke about the expectation that there'll be one everywhere. So it's more and more people, even the core golfers, are leaning toward, well, I'd like to know what my ball flight is. I'd like to know what my ball speed is when I come up here. What's yours? So.
Well, think about why. Watch golf on television. I mean, how annoyed do you get when you're watching golf on television and you can't see ball flight? I'm like, what? What is going on? And remember, it used to be on a couple holes, and then it was and then now every now and then they miss ball flight, and you're like throwing your hands in the air going, I couldn't see the shot. And 2 years ago, you saw 5% of the shots. I mean, I know everybody can relate to what I'm saying because I love to watch ball flight. Everybody likes to watch ball flight, right? So it is becoming an expectation primarily because that's how we consume the product on television, which is why it's going to eventually migrate first to private clubs and then daily fee resorts and daily fees. Everyone's going to need to have this technology because it's going to be an expectation of consumers.
Yeah. And I think to follow that up, the instruction side to now, we won't call it golf entertainment, we'll call it the golf lifestyle or something. But it's really around how do we also help you out there manage these environments. So being able to look at reservations, league management, all those type of things, point of sale, CRM, and keep your members or your customers sticky to you as well. So all those tools are now being developed by companies. We're not just talking about, oh look, here's 16 data sets to do my reverse spin or my vertical angle. How do I keep people coming back into these technologies as well?
I think that's important for any technology that's in the industry. Anybody who comes into the business that's a tech company, you have to be there with the partner along the way and provide those services, that SaaS model, because the set it and forget it's not going to work, and the hands-off environment's not going to work. And that's what you guys do really well. That's what we're seeing successful brands out there do, is that this is a partnership. I think the favorite thing that my team has is we go into every single conversation with a blank slate. And there's no one-size-fits-all environment for technology. It's who's your current customer, what's your setup at your facility, who do you want your customer to be, and let us help you develop that together. And then also when that happens, then be with you to help maximize and meet those goals. So that's when we look at it and we talk about partnership and being out with the industry, that's really important to us because we need it to be successful just as everybody else does. If we sell the product, great. If it's not successful, that just doesn't work.
Yeah, great. So back to you and some of the things you're working on, Brett, with the Sims. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then also, what kind of demographic, facility, location is really attracted to what you're doing with the simulators?
Well, it's interesting. I'd probably say the demographic has kind of evolved and changed. Definitely, it was in that home environment when we first started in the business. I think our model was probably 70% home, 30% indoor golf centres and commercial customers. That's now done a dramatic change to around 65% commercial customers. But also now with the software, being able to connect your devices to your data, that it's a global kind of scenario now. So our growth areas are definitely in the Americas, but also in the Middle East, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Korea, Japan are some big growth areas for us as well. But they're multifunctional indoor golf centres as well, with pickleball and tennis simulators and all those type of things. So that's fun if we can start to integrate those as an indoor country club. And one of the other things I really like is this private indoor club model, where you're paying a membership. It's a self-serve, so you don't need anybody controlling the system, and you're trained on how you can actually run your simulator, and it's open 24/7, and we're seeing a lot of growth in that area as well.
And then, Dave, talk a little bit about, and you kind of touched on it earlier, but the mind shift you think the consumers went through to start accepting simulators, Topgolf, things like that as golf?
I mean, to me, it's really simple. It's about removal of friction. I mean, it's not intimidating. It's easy. And it's, by the way, you'll never hear me use the word cheap because it's not cheap. That's not the problem. The problem is all of the friction that we've created. We make it really hard for people to get into this sport. And this has changed that. It's just made it so simple and low friction and unintimidating. And so if people that watch golf on television, they want to dip their toe in the water, and now it's easy to do it. And it wasn't easy before. You couldn't just dip your toe in the water.
You make a great point about cost. We've found, I mean, I'm sure everybody who has simulator, who has tech, the willingness to pay more and travel further for a better experience in this environment we talked about a lot this morning, in this current economic environment especially, we see it every day, and people are blown away by pro formas that they can put together just based off cost alone. You know, there's just been this historic, a bucket costs this or an hour costs this. We have 30 municipalities we work with. 70% of them are on hourly charge on their range. And they're charging $35, $40, $50 an hour for a bay at the range in their municipalities.
They used to get $8.
They used to get $5 for a bucket, right? So some people have said, oh, you guys have raised the bucket price around the world. But we just have a better value. I mean, the value that they're getting is significant beyond what they used to. So price is a big deal, and value is a big deal.
And being able to then, minimise or remove that threshold of the upfront capital, where you can start to do a subscription model, that makes it a lot easier for the clubs out there as well to put return on investment and look at return on investment a lot quicker. So I think they're the things that now, as this business and this industry evolves, you're going to see a lot more smarter business models and a lot more ways that you're working together and actually growing revenue and growing your membership.
Well, a great example, I think probably and it's actually Topgolf Callaway is one of the investors in the company, is 5 Iron Golf. It's subscription-based, and they probably have the most scale of a subscription-based indoor simulator-driven model that they've actually dropped the word entertainment because it is golf. It's in the morning, it's practice and instruction and fitting, and then in the afternoon, it's kind of a little bit in between, and the evening it turns into more of an entertainment environment. By the way, same customers all the way through. So they've kind of shattered this notion that, oh yeah, no, golf entertainment customers, this group, and then there's serious golfers. They're like, no, it's a homogeneous environment, and they all coexist, and they coexist very effectively. I mean, I don't know how many facilities 5 Iron's up to. I think they're up to like 30 or 40, something like that. It's pretty remarkable.
And they've just opened that new, I think, Breezy Golf, so the apparel business mixed with 5 Iron. So it's exciting to see those collaborations happening. And we're seeing the franchise model just grow in our business as well.
How many non-golf games do you guys have on your platform?
Oh, I think around 37.
Non-golf?
Yeah, non-golf.
We only have one.
Right.
So it's always like, oh, it has to be entertainment golf, has to be non-golf games. We only have one, it's for kids, and it's the Go Fish game. Everything else is golf, so everyone's like, people are coming. I'm surprised by the non-golf. When you talk about it a lot, there's all non-golfers coming here. They've never stepped foot on a golf course. Well, they're playing golf courses. They're playing Pebble Beach on the range. It's just that frictionless experience. The first tee still has friction to it at most facilities. The range doesn't have friction to it, and they can play the world's greatest golf courses without feeling like they have to know something and do something. And then again, if you transition them to your golf course, great. If you don't, just make sure they're coming to your golf property.
Yeah. I think the fun thing about the gamification of golf inside the simulators is that, and I've got a personal experience with this because I'm using the dart game, and that's how I practice my short 50-yard chip shots. And so when I'm out playing, all I can see is the dartboard and not the green anymore. So I think that's a good thing, because usually I've got the yips.
I mentioned this earlier, but I took my son to the range for the first time to play Go Fish when he was like 3 years old. He hit a large bucket by himself, didn't get a ball off the ground. I was pressing the button to do the help shot. He had no clue I was pressing the button. And I'm a little biased, but he looks at me and he goes, Dad, I want another bucket. And my credit card came out as fast as it possibly could. I'm like, here you go. And now he has 750 fish in his aquarium. Now he can play closest to the pin. He's 5, and I just took him on the golf course for the first time. I mean, and we have that together. We can go to the range together and now my wife wants clubs, and she wants to be involved, and that's something we couldn't do before, and that's creating this cohesive family environment where you might play in the morning in your serious game, and then your family can come to the facility and play something else in a sim or on the range, and now you have that as well. So just have to be really diverse and keep that open-mindedness.
That's a very powerful story, though, because you just described what is systemically changed in the business. That's it.
I have a video of it. I'll show you.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, I ruined all my kids. You know why? Because I took them to golf courses and I put them on a tee line with somebody that didn't know how to teach. And now they're starting to pick the game back up now, but I mean, they're like, I don't want to do this. This is intimidating. It's scary. Dad, I was embarrassed. I mean, all of those things are gone with the experience you just went through with your son.
It was awesome.
And it's a very, very powerful shift in our industry. Very powerful. And we've not seen anything like it. And I said, actually, the first time I went to a Topgolf, I went back to meet with Fincham. I went to the one in Dallas, actually with one of my kids, who's now a mom and 32. She was looking at SMU as a college. And I went out to the one out in Addison. And she's like, Dad, really? Do we have to go do this? You know, I don't want to go do this. You're always trying to get me to play golf. And we went out there, and we almost missed our flight because she wanted to play more games. And I got back to Fincham. I said, this is the most powerful thing to happen to our industry since Big Bertha. And it is. And I didn't know actually how powerful it was because it was so early in the evolution. And that was really before indoor started to take off. And when you combine the two, it's prolific, what it's going to do to the business.
Well, I have a story similar to that. Bob Carney from Golf Digest and I, many years ago, went to the one in Chicago. That was one of the early ones. And we're walking around, and everyone's having a great time, date night, all these things. And we're walking out, and there's 3 kids, hoodies, baggy pants, and Bob Carney looks at me and says, "No golf course in America would these kids walk into, but they're walking in here, and they're probably still golfers." Yep. And we do want you to put Angry Birds on.
I know. We're working on it. I saw that one coming.
By the way, I'll throw that out. But I will say also that you talked about the kids, and I teach a lot of lessons now, and it has changed the face of how you can give golf instruction to kids now. They are engaged. They want to come. They want to play. They're like, is it an hour already? Is it lesson over already? And it's just what we're doing with being able to offer those games. And they like them all. I mean, they love Go Fish, but they like the points game. They love long drive. All those things. So it's across the board that it's helped golf instruction.
What's ironic is, and Susie knows this, the great teachers in Golf for Kids, how do they get kids fired up about golf? They play games with them.
Right.
That's what they did, and the bad teachers didn't. They're like, no, you got to hit a golf shot. No, kid doesn't want to hit a golf shot. Kid wants to play a game. So we've just now done it with technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think the instructions moved to that streaming, YouTube. So I know my son just gets out there and looks at the latest YouTubes, tries it in the sim, and says, oh, that works, and then goes out on the course. So that's instruction kind of friction as well has gone away, where you can have 100 different instructors telling you, the same thing. But it's all free, and it's all out there for anybody to go and find.
Well, I think too in instruction, the compaction has hurt instruction because there's only so much time in the day to teach. And teachers are burnt out, coaches are burnt out. There's only so much time. So if you can give the coach a tool to give them that remote capability and group lesson capability and potentially giving lessons and assignments without physically being together, called unsupervised practice, now all of a sudden that golf professional just became more valuable. That golf professional is going to make more money himself, is happier, might have more time on his or her hand, and that's going to continue to get the PGA professional more opportunities within the industry too. So that's something we're focused on from a coaching standpoint, because it's just we're seeing burnout in so many places. That how can we help the golf professional, give them tools, get people to play better? You guys have done the study, the engagement with a member, and what that does to retention and what that does to attrition levels is insane. So we're at a very healthy point. How do we stay healthy? Well, engagement with members is a top priority, or players, in a digital and physical environment. And that drop, Mark took me through the study, that drops attrition by, 10, 20 points, something along those lines.
It's amazing. When we have our normal kind of across the board attrition is about 11, and then at the Premier and Signature clubs at upper end is about 8. When we have a member that has one of the kids enrolled in any kind of a junior program, that attrition number drops to 3. That's how powerful that is. It's a game changer.
So we see the variety of different offerings there are now with golf entertainment. We'll still call that for a little while. Are you surprised? Here we have this high acceptance level of what's happening out there, but not that long ago we were resistant as an association and as the golf industry. Are you surprised to see Tiger Woods and all these different things getting involved?
No, I think what's happened is we've hit a tipping point and it's tipped, and now this organic growth of, you know, golf and technology merging to reduce friction is just, it's turned into a tidal wave. I mean, when Tomorrow Golf kicks in and we start watching this simulator-based golf on Monday nights, it's going to take, right now there's about 800 alternative golf facilities, so indoor, outdoor. That number will quadruple in the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to be massive. And that's just going to take it and put it mainstream in everybody's house. Everyone's going to be watching it. And it's just going to accelerate the growth curve, which is already steep.
Yeah.
It's just going to get steeper. And again, I wish I was 40 and not 60 in this business, because when I was 40, there was no jet fuel in the business. We're trying to figure out how we were going to get, that's why Golf 2020 happened. We were trying to manufacture what is now organic. And you can't manufacture it. I mean, all the different initiatives to advertise golf and get people to come, you know, to a golf course, it doesn't work. This works because it makes it easy for people to access.
Yeah. And it's not a market share game anymore.
No.
And we're not competition. I mean, we're sitting here together, we're supplemental to each other. That's a different version. We're a different version.
It's a rising tide lifts everybody.
It's a different version, and just create it. I mean, my advice is just create it to fit your demographic and your audience that you have and that you want. It doesn't have to be the same thing absolutely everywhere. It's just something that, I mean, like you said, we have some, you know, iconic high-end private clubs who are doing what we did last night on the range, where you never thought we would be in that space. We thought we were going to struggle in that space, in all honesty, and we haven't. It's our fastest growing market by far. We knew the daily fee. You can charge an extra $2 and sell, you know, 1 million golf balls instead of 250,000. That stuff was easy for us to think about. With the private space, we really struggled with the return on investment. And once we changed return on investment to return on experience and what that did to attrition and retention, and then creating a platform where you can activate, teach, coach, and drive more engagement with people, we started going like this as well. So the road is long. It's very long.
So this is to all of you guys, what do our owners need to know about what they should be doing moving into the future? How can they play in this game if they haven't already? And what's next for the industry?
I mean, this is one where you just got to decide if you want to lead or follow, you know? And I think the trend lines are pretty clear. I think you really, to be relevant to this emerging, you know, new base of consumer, you have to have a technology component for them to experience, because it just makes the experience better. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, I don't think we're that many years off. I think you'll hear in the next 5 years, you'll hear of the first golf courses that are fully wired with Toptracer technology. And you're like, what does that mean? It means you go to Firestone and you play, and you don't need any distance devices. You've got your phone, and it's tracking every shot, and you're taking it home with you. And you're playing it again. You're going to look at every shot you hit on your simulator at home. That's coming. And it's just about the cost continuing to come down. And that's going to happen. So to be relevant, ultimately, you're going to have to embrace this. The question is not whether or not you do it. In my opinion, it's when you do it. And because it's coming.
And I think we should also think about I'm trying to just put this in the right frame of mind without talking in Australian terms. So it's, if I'm sitting at my golf club and that I've got the ability to play against people around the world, and it's very similar to on-course golf. So there's only certain sports, car racing, flight simulation, and I think golf's about the only other one. I think you can do soccer and tennis and those type of things in the real world. But being able to then have that ability to connect with people around the world, also connect with your friends, but being able to improve yourself at your speed. And then the goal for us is, if we can ever see that we can have somebody qualify indoors and get to the outdoor world, and we've done it with a professional long drive a few times, if we can start to have that and find like somebody in Eastern Washington that's driving the ball 390 yards just on the simulator, let's get him or her into the system as well. So I think they're the things that are exciting us about that. It's just that journey, and that we've now got technology that's good enough to actually see that somebody's actually very good at golf.
Yeah. That global connectivity in golf is huge. and we do the virtual challenges. So last week we did the virtual US, or 2 weeks ago, Women's Open. There's nothing better than seeing a facility from, I mean, your facility, right? Paris, Texas against Korea, Japan, Sweden, 32 other countries, and you're out there competing. But for the operator, that's so cool to see. I mean, there's people from my facility competing against millions of people around the world at any given time, simultaneous with a major championship. That's where it's going, and that's where it's going to be, and continue to grow there. So that's something to look out for. And I to your question, I would say, think about that 20 million right now, or that 12.5 off course is going to be 20. It's going to be 25, like you said. How do I attract them in a comfortable environment way that fits your facility? Doesn't have to be what other people are doing. We have 290 in the U.S., and all of them are different. Every single one of them is very different. So there's something for everybody in there, and create a white space for yourself to make that range or that ballroom into something that's driving experience and driving revenue at the end of the day, and getting more people to your golf course. And don't think about the 12 who play, think about the 12, 15 who don't, and how do we get them out here and start that journey for them. Simulator and the range is the gateway. I think Greg said earlier, that's the gateway drug to the golf course. So make it a gateway, make it inviting, make it social, make it fun, take down every barrier in those environments. And your golf course is going to be your golf course, and that's great. And somebody from there, 10, 15, 20% of them are going to go buy a greens fee, buy a membership, and keep going. And for the private clubs here is who are the members who don't play golf. Right. And focus on them, and just start focusing. The golfers are going to like it, no matter what it is. They're going to want to do that instead of going to any other entertainment space. So take the people who don't play golf, they're social members, they're pool members, and start getting them on the range to hit a golf ball, and see what happens there, and see what that does to the bottom line when you're talking about shop revenue, hard goods revenue, all the other things that we're trying to push through. There's probably another sliver there, Greg, I'm looking at you, of people that are hitting golf balls, and the check will clear tomorrow for that presentation you gave, by the way, so just hold it till tomorrow. There's people there, and they're hitting balls, and we don't even know it.
Yeah, so a perfect example is we do a summertime 2-person Monday night scramble, and then when it gets dark earlier, we move it to Toptracer, and we don't miss a beat. So.
And getting back to probably what you can think about in this world of what can you do now to plan for an indoor golf facility or technology on the range, those type of things. It's a matter of what the membership wants against the non-golfer membership against, is it a revenue generator? And then how do you kind of implement that at the lowest kind of capital outlay and just let it evolve by itself? And it will evolve, it'll definitely evolve, but it's a matter of what can you do now? And those type of things are, does it have to be on your location? There's a couple of companies we're talking to at the moment on golf courses that don't have any room for indoor golf facilities, but they're going to some new local strip malls and then creating a indoor golf environment there linked to their club, and then dragging them back. Mm-hmm. So that's an exciting kind of time as well.
Yeah. Well, I think measure it too. So compaction's at an all-time high. We just talked about not having tee times. We talked about weather impacting rounds played. Well, weather doesn't impact indoor simulator business. Weather doesn't impact a covered range at your facility. So if you're losing corporate revenue dollars because something got rained out, you don't have to. You can transition it to another environment on your golf course, and then that revenue stays with you, and that stays there. And if you do 140 rounds a day you're servicing, can we service another 100 to 200 people in a simulator or a range? Now your market share just went on your facility went from 140 to 240 or 340 in a day that you're servicing versus just my tee time rounds. We have to measure the data of the other pieces of the golf course that our people are hitting a ball with a club and a full swing.
Yeah, good. Well, any questions from our audience that we would like to open it up to? Some thoughts or questions, or any stories that you have about experiences you've had in this arena?
Quick question for Brett. When's the technology for putting on simulators going to get better?
Really good question. I think what we've definitely, or what I've come to in the last 5 years, is that it's definitely going to be different. It's not going to be the same as indoor putting and these platforms that do things and the putt views of the world. I think that's great. In the simulator itself, right now we still put ourselves as one of the best short game simulators because we can track a 2-inch putt, and we actually don't do givvies in our tournaments. We actually have a a model where we show you how to putt on our simulators, and it's actually really well, I'd say, adopted. But unless you don't do that training, it's very hard for people to understand how the putting works. I don't know. There's some more technology that we're looking at regarding the authentic putting, but changing the environment on the screen. But at the moment, we're pretty happy with what we're doing. But it's definitely not helping that authentic putting. I mean, my lag putting's got better, but that's about it at the moment.
Because you're able to simulate just basically speed.
Yeah.
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 Dave, a question for you. Tonight we're going to the Hay. PGA National just put it in a par 3. Jordan Spieth's got one at UT. What are your thoughts about par 3 golf courses, lit or unlit, and the entertainment complex that goes around there, like they just did at PGA headquarters in Frisco?
Well, my thought is if it's a public facility and it's night lit, I think it's a great idea. If it's a private facility, it's a lot of money and it's hard to monetize. So I think we'll probably do a lot more around Toptracer and simulator-based activity before we're building, freestanding. Takes up a fair amount of real estate and it is very costly. But you can monetize if you're public. You can monetize it, particularly if you can get entitlements to do lighting. It's a great little business, in my opinion.
Dave, the private facilities, are you just going right down the line with Toptracer and one by one installing it all?
No, Bob's driving this with our golf team literally on a club by club basis. I think Alex is right. It is really based on each individual club, and there are Mark, there's geographic constraints, as you know. There are other factors that you have to take into consideration to come up with what is optimal for that particular club, and so we're just kind of getting prepared to start accelerating the deployment of more simulator-based technology and driving range-based technology at the club. So I think you'll see this accelerate across invited clubs in 24 and 25 especially. But it's very, very club by club. And Alex made that point a couple of times. It's not a cookie cutter.
No.
And one of the things that we didn't really touch on is the support that all these companies give. But certainly my experience with Toptracer is that there's webinars, there's things you can sit in on, and it's a very helpful environment to help you be successful.
Thank you for that.
Good question back there.
This is a question for you, Cathy, and for you, Dave. Semantics aside, Greg put up a slide earlier this morning that showed a number of young people saying they want golf to come to them on their terms. Private clubs have a culture, a conventional culture that should be respected and will be respected. But how are you going to drive the traffic to private clubs, let's leave public aside for a second, and open the funnel up to that audience and that demographic that may eventually convert to a private club, but feels awfully alienated walking in the front door? And Cathy, to that point you had made before, your friend, when you visited Chicago's Topgolf, said you'd never see them walk in the front door. That's an enormous audience that isn't being addressed.
Well, that's a great question, because I do think there are layers of demographics that are going to stay with and play in certain arenas. And it really is okay. If you take a new golfer and you ask them what their goals are, sometimes it will surprise you that they just really want to go out there and have fun. They want to hit a couple shots up in the air. And as an industry, sometimes we expect them to expect more. And so with that, when we say we want to meet them where they are, you can pay as much as you want for golf. You can pay as little as you want for golf. And it's the same thing with this environment of golf entertainment. There's going to be a golf entertainment that fits that person just as they are in any market soon enough. There's almost that now. But I think that we have to say, if they're a public golfer and they want to wear their hat backwards and T-shirts and that's who they are and they want to stay there, they may never gravitate to a private club, and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. I think my answer would be, I think it's going to happen organically. And I think to Greg's point earlier, when golf euphoria turns into golf addiction and you're slugging it out for tee times in public golf, the conversation is, as soon as I can afford to buy a membership somewhere, I'm going to. And some people can't ever get to a place where they can afford to do that. But when they can, they kind of meet in the middle. They begin to conform a little bit more to what's acceptable in a private club environment, and the private club is also bending a little bit more and being a little more flexible with respect to the kind of the old guard and what they want to see, and we're seeing kind of that halfway point, and you're seeing it show up in apparel and fashion and you know what tends to be more acceptable now that wouldn't have been acceptable, say, you know, even 5 years ago. So I think there's going to be an organic transition that will take place, and it'll be the addicts that want access that ultimately will buy private club memberships, and it's going to happen over time.
I see another question over here. Well, good. Well, thank you all panelists for being here, and thank you, audience. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.